Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. It's the Burgess and Bolton weekly wrap up. Hello, everybody. Apology for the shoddy start. Obviously, the production values, which I've got to say I'm in charge of, so hands up. Didn't have any of them today. I'm in a different location using a new computer, and I failed miserably. So my da-da-da-da-da-da was the best I could come up with 3 seconds ago. Anyway, how are you doing, Ben? Are you all right?
Yeah, good. Good. I'm glad it's the end of quite a long week. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday, Jeremy. It's a shame we're going to be talking about innovation and how the market can keep up to speed, and we have such a pathetic start, isn't it, really? But we in your defence, you've been busy. Have you been betting on the election? Right?
Yeah. I made a fortune. Absolutely.
Are you under inquiry? So a bit of insider trading.
Yeah. Luckily, the inquiry doesn't start until after Tuesday because we've got Tintech, as you know, as you'll be there. But that's quite a funny story. But anyway, let's bring it back to today. So we're going to look at everything to do with London market, technology, change, innovation, and this week we're going to kind of major on, I guess, two areas: change, just generally within London and what that means, but also then look at how that impacts talent, and then we might also reflect on the football, or if you could call it football, last night. Okay.
Yeah, that'll be a downer at the end, won't it?
Yeah, there we are. Right. Ding, ding. Right, I haven't even got the bell. It's terrible. Right, so let's start with this article in the FT, Ben, which, well, I'll let you kind of explain it, but generally saying that London is falling behind.
So I wanted to pull together a number of different things that we've been talking about and are coming out. So one, there's quite a focus on the London market because we had London Matters coming out a few weeks ago from London Market Group, and then they've been PRing that around the place, and then this coincided with the FT giving them quite a decent bit of coverage, and perhaps not surprisingly because they were doing an insurance summit this week, which I don't think you or I went to. I didn't have the time to go to. I would have liked to have gone. I might go next time. But it looked good. I think, though, that some of the things that are coming out of here, I think the market's got to be a bit concerned at the moment in terms of when you bring, you take a step back and you look at overall at this. So this is about ostensibly about captives and how really London has fallen behind on in-house cover, as it's called here, or captives. Bermuda, Singapore, other offshore locations have done better. Maybe for tax reasons, because obviously captives are primarily done because of cost reasons when there are hard markets, because there's a lot of cost and there's a lot of work involved in running a captive for any organisation, and it's not their core business. However, they're very kind of juicy contracts, particularly for brokers in the market, because they do a lot of services like claims data and so on and so forth for these captives. So, and there are commissions and all sorts of going on. So it's a very interesting area. But London and the LMG have been saying lobbying government for this, but obviously now we're in election, that has been dropped. So the question mark now, I think Caroline Wagstaff, CEO of the LMG, said they're like a fly in amber, stuck in amber. They're fossilized in terms of where they can go and how they can move forward.
Right.
So that's one thing, and then Dame Sue Langley, now she is, who's one of the great and good in the market. Was saying at this conference that she'd been talking to people in Singapore and Bermuda, and they had said London is kind of traditional, i.e. not innovative, not really at the cutting edge anymore. And for someone, I think, like Sue Langley to say that is important, because she is going to be one of the supporters of the market. And so I think these are not just veiled messages, they're obvious messages. David Howden said the same thing. are we going to be able to innovate to do this? Now, I want to just then draw this out into other areas that we're looking at. So we've talked now, there was a big Insider article this week about Blueprint 2. Not an article that I think was in any way really positive about the prospective outcome of Blueprint 2. And it was allied really to question marks about whether John Neal and the chairman would be even in post soon, because they might just take retirement. Bruce Carnegie Brown, sorry, and therefore you look at this and go, well, hang on, what's going on? So if that all doesn't really work out, I'm not saying it won't, but if that doesn't really work out, that's another failure on the on the kind of tech front for the whole market, and we stumble on. You kind of see that is the case. And then I think there are other bigger questions that people are raising about whether the insurers are really fit for purpose around technology. And there's a lot of talk about MGAs taking that role on in terms of being more agile with the capital and the service and the innovation. When you take it all together, you have a feeling that this is not looking great for the market, for London as a whole, if it doesn't look like it's at the cutting edge and it's innovative. So the interesting word that was used was traditional, which is yes, good at what they do, but not really forward looking. And we're going to talk about talent in a minute. And I think that is probably reflected in the type of talent in the market. I think there's a lot of the diversity hasn't changed very much. We're not necessarily getting a lot of the new skills into the market. You may disagree from where you sit, but I don't think we're getting enough of that. So, there are big kind of questions really around London as a centre. And I have to say, I've had conversations too with various very senior execs at insurers over the last couple of weeks, where the side conversation was about, well, how important is London? What about Blueprint 2? What's happening? And even if it doesn't happen, where we're all going global anyway, so is it important? So so you take it all together, and the mood music is not great. And of course, we're going to have a new government. They're going to be asking for things. Insurance is no doubt a big contributor to the economy. We know that. I think there has to be, my take on this is that we have to have a focus on innovation as a market now. I think that's got to be clear. And I'd pointed a number of things. I think the lead follow thing, the algorithmic trading, that has to be, move forward very quickly. I think there needs to be thinking about how does lead work and what value does it add? Because I think we're stuck we are stuck, as Caroline says, in Amber, in a broader sense, because there are too many old structures and ways of working, which clearly can be done digitally now and should be done digitally. And I'd include even TPA, third-party administrators and people like that in this space. There's too many areas where there isn't enough technology going on, much digitization, and we're still working in very old-fashioned ways. And while things are moving on a bit, they're not moving on certainly fast enough. And I think these articles and things that we've quoted are not just kind of a nicety about, things aren't being very innovative, but we're all fine. These are things that we're not being very innovative, and we're not really growing or attracting the business we need to as a market, which isn't great for UK PLC, definitely not great for London. And of course, it may just mean that we change our show to be Global Insurance, not London. And we do it from Bermuda or somewhere.
That sounds attractive. So let me come in on some of those points from kind of where I sit with the kind of tech and ops kind of hat on. So interestingly, ahead of TinTech next week, we've got a number of London Market claims sessions and London Market people taking part on the session. So I've done a number of briefing calls, and I think one thing that comes out quite clear, two things that come out quite clearly. Firstly, that there is a tension between kind of senior management and leaders that absolutely get all the points that you have just made and are fully behind digitizing aspects of their business that can be bringing in new talent and then innovating for what will be a significantly different world in the next 5 to 10 years. And the tension occurs then between the people on the front line that have been doing a job for decades or even longer in a way, and find it quite difficult sometimes to see how this type of almost revolutionary change in terms of operating models and processes and how things work is going to impact them. And I think there's a genuine fear that people will lose their jobs, where actually I think senior management are thinking, no, we need to reskill and retrain. We don't need to fire great bunches of people. That's not what it's about. So that's the first thing I would say. There's definitely within the senior management team there is a recognition of all the things that you've just said there, and things need to be done. On the technology front, what I think is actually a very positive, and the most positive that I've been for a long time, around the data challenges that we've had seemingly forever, the flow of information, communications, all these kind of friction points that London have had. I think now that because that burning platform that you outlined in the FT, that's cutting through, and people are collaborating in a way that they haven't before. So brokers and underwriters, insurers are coming together and saying, we need to fix this because it's good for you. If you have the data digitally, you can then, as a broker, offer new services and products. For us as an underwriter, we can turn around the business much quicker. We can have straight through processes. We can lower our cost base. So it's this kind of coming together. We've been talking about it for a few years now, about how AI and these, whatever the new capabilities are, it's kind of the glue that's going to hold together all the little innovations that we've seen over the last decade with the Internet of Things and sensor information and new data sources and enrichment and digital and platforms and everything like that. I think it's actually quite an exciting time, but I think the big but is we have to grasp that opportunity, and it's got to be led from businesses that see it as, this is the way forward. This is how we're going to deliver competitive advantage and serve our customers better. We can't just trundle along. So perhaps not set in amber, maybe it's more in ice, and we can thaw it out and move forward.
But yeah, I can see those two sides. I think the question as well is, how do you bring those two things together? And that's what we're really talking about. And I think it's a few conversations this week around that. I think that there is still too much of the the tech people are still in the tech space, and the insurance people are in the insurance space, and they don't and there isn't enough yet of the, how does this tech enable us to do more business? But that isn't just because of tech. I think that's because there are structures in the market that are long established, but they're no longer relevant. And I think that I talked about lead and follow, because I think that algorithmic trading now has become obvious that is a great way to do things. I mean, who cares whether it's the best or not, and whether you could have still made money off secondary trading? I think you can see that with Brit Kai and the Beasley Syndicate, and the coming together of that. I think everybody's kind of saying that's going to be the future, which changes a market like London, which is about risk allocation, largely through a manual process, but where leads don't get paid for doing the extra work to be a lead. So there's no real advantage to being a lead, for example. So in terms of risk appetite and who wants to do that, I think, and then you can't innovate if you've not got any advantage to being a first mover, and that's a real difficult problem. But if a lot of the stuff goes to dumb capital, basically, it's the secondary stuff that just follows on from the lead, then you suddenly have a market where the trading systems, if they're going to be like things like Whitespace and others growing out globally, with those people communicating developing things, I think suddenly you have something much more exciting, and I think you really do use the expertise and specialization of London. But as you say, I think there has to be seen to be less short-termism, more of a medium, longer-term strategic approach to saying, right, we're going to make this, we're going to make something happen because we're going to win and we're going to make more money, and that's the only reason markets will bother to do things ultimately.
Yeah. Interesting. So we'll watch this space. We're in it, especially the MGA and digital or smart follow. I think that's a fascinating area, and a conference we're going to put on next year. So that will be good. Oh, I haven't got my bell. Ding ding! I managed to break my pen as well. So
going really well. This is going about as well as the Conservative campaign in the general election.
Yeah, the wheels will come off my chair in a minute, and that will be it. Okay, let's talk about so the brand index, and then we can talk a bit about talent as well. Do you want to just give us a
So we've been doing a lot of work on employer brand, and that really means the best places to work essentially, but we tend to see it from an insurance organization's perspective of, do they get their employee offer right in the market? Short answer, spoiler alert, is no, they don't really in this market. Another area where I think we could be thinking about more innovation is how we communicate generally, how we market these businesses. I know a lot of people will think, oh, well, that's a load of soft stuff. It's really, really important. If you're going to be innovating, you've got to market, you've got to tell people how good the product is. No good just expecting them to get it somehow. So we launched the 2024 Employer Brand Index, which I will share in a minute, which is the leading players in the market, insurers in this case. We've got others coming up, brokers and things, but insurers to start with, as to which ones have got the best employer brands. And there's a league table on Insurindex. And this was led by Beazley, Convex and Chubb. All, I think, probably we would agree are good brands anyway. They put a lot of investment into those brands. So, by default, they do pretty well in this. So if you just move on a little bit, I'll just talk a bit about the background, because one of the issues that I've just touched on before was the demographics in the market and the sort of slow development. So we've been looking at this in terms of the London market. This is the broker cohort, and it just happens we chose that because it's actually not that dissimilar from the underwriter cohort, but we just wanted to choose something that people could understand. So this is how the trends have gone, and they're pretty similar in other areas, and all the demographics underlie this. This is the age demographic over the last few years since 2017. So you can see that there is, as you'd expect and know, there's a skew towards the older age group. But actually what we've seen this year is that has dropped really substantially. So I think it's down about 40% or so, actually, and a real term drop of about 23% in that 50 plus group. And that is mostly what we'd call the great retirement. So that has actually happened or happening with a lot of experienced older people leaving the market altogether, because they're not even present in the demographic anymore. So that's kind of interesting. You've got actually a good increase, healthy increase, it seems to me, in the 25 to 34 age group, and a little bit of an increase in the up to 24. Now, some extent up to 24, you're still talking about very much the early entry point into the market. So it's always a little bit of an odd one to look at that, and you're kind of into graduate programs and so on. But I think the fact that the 25 plus group has grown is quite decent. But where you do have a bit of an issue still is in this mid-market, which has really remained quite stagnant. This mid-career, this is the succession. So it does look as if there aren't really necessarily enough people to fill the gap in the 50 plus, the experience gap of leadership, if you like, which is what you were talking about earlier on. So I think we're going to have a leadership deficit in the market. Yeah. Because you can't do anything about it unless you start to bring people back and use that experience through mentoring or other ways, consultants or whatever, which could be a program the market could look at, or you actually say, let's start to really genuinely go out and recruit skilled leadership from outside of the market and quickly train them up in the weird and wonderful ways of insurance or specialty insurance. Good luck with that one. And, so there are challenges, right? And I don't think the challenge, and I said in this article, I don't think the big challenge is younger people now. I think I mean, I know we want to be cool and we want to have, talent coming through. I think that's kind of in train. I think we should be looking now at this. How do we build this experience? And it really does play into this point about innovation. You do not get innovation from people who are very young, who, you get some innovation. What you've got to have in our market, which is specialized a lot of ways, you've got to have some experience and people who know, all the machinations of the history, the traditional ways of working. We know this. You've got to really know stuff before you can innovate and know where to innovate. Otherwise, you could just be, it could just be superficial. So the problem will be if this group in the middle, this mid-tier group, is just so busy with everything, trying to just keep the lights on, they're not going to be able to have the time to innovate. So there really is a crunch around, can digital free people up? Well, no good if Blueprint 2 doesn't really deliver. I mean, that's a big issue, because people will still be doing things largely the old way. And it might even be more messy, right? So people will be probably quite pissed off about that and say, why am I, working my socks off when people told me that we were going to be digitized and we were going to be modern and we're going to do more things and I'd have more time to do some interesting stuff. Yeah. I think that could be also the problem is you get people getting, become unhappy with the jobs. The morale gets low because they're still doing a lot of admin and systems and legacy systems aren't working. So there's a lot to. I'm reading a lot into one chart, but I do think it's very important because demographics is truth. It doesn't. You can't do anything about it, really. Not that much once it's happened. We've got a demographic drop off in birth rates in the West, particularly in Europe. It's happened. You can't do much about it. Can't suddenly create babies and young people en masse, much as we might try. But you can't do that here. So I think it's another worrying facet of the market and something that I will say, I'll say this. I don't think businesses think strategically about these things. I think we get seduced by, trendy things and fashionable things and superficial things and shiny things, but we don't often, as a market, look at the fundamentals. I think other markets, particularly Singapore, I would say, do that a bit better.
Yeah,
and in the US, you have more competition, so it kind of happens more naturally. I think the bubble of London has got a problem now with this. I think it's got to work out where to go with it and how to do it. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you a couple of questions then. So do you think that if we get the innovation, the strategic innovation piece right, so we find new ways of working and we kind of ditch the old manual processes and we, the people, if we give the people in that middle group the time to innovate and find, do you think then actually the people coming through, they'll have new skills and capabilities? They won't need to know all this kind of weighty old traditional way of doing things, and that might actually speed up moving people through. Let's not just put it the age groups, but that kind of experience. Let's call it experience.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I should have said that. I mean, I do think you can, if you start to get it right, as you describe, and I think there's some questions about that, which I'll come back to, but I think you can accelerate experience, if you like. I think you can make it quicker. And I think that's another problem, is I think a lot of people in the older age groups, broking and underwriting, think you can't accelerate experience. You have to be in the market for 25, 30 years before you can really do the job properly. I think that's rubbish, to be honest. I think that's not true in other markets. Why should it be true in insurance? We're not an exceptional market. We're just different a bit. I do think you can accelerate experience, and I think you can take a lot of the example is lots of people have always said, well, you can't digitize this or that or the other, and then you can, you do, and it happens, and that sort of attitude has got to go. And I don't mean it goes and then you just become slavish to technology being the only answer, because it isn't, without question. I do think you therefore have to, but you have to start to look and say, can we speed up this adoption and enablement through technology, I think, and can we therefore look at the younger people and people like, interestingly, I think people like Carolyn Bedford at Eddie, are talking about this sort of thing as well, and we partner with them. So there's a very big conversation, and it needs to be bigger and it needs to be more fundamental. But technology is not going to do anything without good people innovating. And if they're way too busy doing the day job, they will not bother with the technology, because take any given team, they'll say, well, I'm not going to learn new tech when I've not got the time to do it. When am I going to do it? At the weekend or something? They won't do that. So it's very important that the time and space is created to adopt technology, and also for tech not just to be dropped in the hope that people or the businesses will get people to work with it, because we all know that is not a recipe for success necessarily. So there's got to be much, much more thinking, I think, about the people aspect of this and the transformation, as opposed to the technology. There's quite a lot of technology on offer, and there has been for the last few years, as you and I know, but a lot of that has fallen by the wayside because it wasn't picked up. So lots of good products have come and gone and will still do so. But yeah, we are at a moment where, going back to the start of this conversation, even the great and the good are saying, we're off the pace. We're off the pace, and we're off the pace in a world that's changing very quickly. It's politically unstable. We're not necessarily going to get the support of governments. Capital is a bit all over the place. We're not done a great job on technology as a market. So yeah, there's a lot of challenges.
Yeah, definitely. There's another chart here. I don't know if you want just to talk.
Yeah, it's just a few things. I mean, I think this is interesting. I mean, it's around people talking about old generations are different, and I think it's such rubbish. It's talked a lot in the general press. Gen Z, and when we look at data, people aren't that different, right? It's a good thing. It's a good thing. We haven't got some new breed of aliens coming in, as 24-year-olds into this market. We've got the same people. They're just younger, and what they want is, yes, they want career prospects and to know what they're going to be paid and whether this is worth being in fundamentally. But beyond that, it's not that different. They're not even that bothered about flexible working. The under 34 group, they're like, I'm going to be in the office, don't worry. It's the mid group who say, I like a bit more flexible working, unsurprisingly, because they've got kids probably, and then it drops off again. So there's nothing in this data that we look at that says anything that's particularly unusual. So again, I don't want, what frustrates me when I look at what happens is sometimes we go down these tracks and we spend money and we invest and we send a message about our problem is this, our problem is not enough young people, our problem is that. It's not necessarily the case. I think there isn't such a problem. I think it's more the diversity of this group that we've got an issue with, and we've got a skills issue, which again, I'd go back to Eddie and people like that to say that's what they're working on. They don't, Eddie doesn't focus on young people. It focuses on all people across the market, which is brilliant. And it's exactly right. You should say, look, you can train a 50-year-old just as much as you can train a 20-year-old. They're not wired differently. There might be a different appetite or energy or something, but they're not different. And again, I'm coming back to this. Can we get the strategy right and then stop wasting time on stuff that is just superficial? And actually some of this stuff in here is really about saying, can you provide inspiration and leadership for entrepreneurial people, for people who want to do things? They get frustrated because they don't do enough.
Yeah. Good chart that, Ben. I think what I was going to say is that it's really important that people don't make decisions on hunches, and they do get proper data, and then then you can make informed decisions, because otherwise you're going, oh look, that didn't work. Well, no, we tried that, and you just go, yeah, but
And I don't know, you see, I mean, I think that you're right. I mean, that's a really good point about anecdote and hunches. And, I think that FT summit that we talked about, we talk about captives, we talk about other things that LMG are supporting. I don't know that they shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, do we really know that this is a great market for captives? Where's the evidence? Do we have the tax advantage? Do we have a superior opportunity to develop captives? I think that asking government is one thing, but do we really have the sort of wherewithal to do it? I would love to see the evidence of that. And not just captives. What are the other choices? Because captives is one thing. We might do something else. I don't know, cyber. We might cyber might be the new thing. I don't really know, but I think if you think about it as a business as a whole, you would say, what are the opportunities for London type skill sets versus, say, Singapore skill sets or something like that? If as they are, these skills are dispersed differently. I know that if you look at Singapore, you'll say there's a lot of financial, actuarial, tech skills in that space because of the way the Asian markets have developed and educated people. In the Western markets like London, you've got a lot more of the arguably of creativity and innovation and ideas and even marketing, stuff like that. We're good at that stuff. We do it in F1. We do it in. We know we're not going to make widgets as cheaply as they do in Vietnam or Taiwan, but we can do Formula One and we can market the thing and the brand and the innovation and this expertise. I don't know. We just need to think like that. We need to think more creatively. We need to get the brain cells working.
Yeah, definitely. And that will be actually a focus for next Tuesday, because it's a space to think more strategically about the big issues. And I think it's important, you mentioned the FT summit, it's important that people get out and go to the events, whether it's mine or anyone else's, because it's there where...
Mainly yours, though.
Mate, I'd really like it if you mainly came to mine.
I know
the other else's, but I don't really mind. I don't really mind. I just like, it's because you meet people that are networked and they come to you with ideas and the whole thing, back in the day it was a network, then became an ecosystem and whatever you want to call it. But basically it's conversations that drive innovation, and that happens best face to face, So that's
I agree with that. And I think that's what we need to make the market be better at in terms of those. This ecosystem shouldn't be a bunch of people, being burdened by tons of administration and, grunt work. It should be people jumping around, excited for what they could do with their latest product innovation in D&O or green transition risks or whatever the future things are, and people backing them up with the tech and the skills and all those sorts of things. David Howden is right. We are not an innovative market, and we are not going to grow if we don't innovate. So do it.
Yeah. Great. Well, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
It's like a political manifesto almost, isn't it?
It is a call to arms.
It's a call to arms. That's what we'll do.
Can't say that anymore. All right, good. So I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. But before that, we have the weekend. Ben, have you been watching the football? Have you?
Oh gosh, yes. Depressing. Sorry, terrible. Talking of directionless, rudderless team.
I know. I don't know what happened last night. It was.
But the same thing that's happened in almost every other match. Our hapless manager has managed. And there you see it. It's get all that talent and then waste it.
Yeah,
defend doesn't really work. I mean, it's the same thing as London, isn't it? The analogy's there. Sure, it's there.
It is. But apart from that, it's been a really great tournament. I've
thoroughly enjoyable for sure. It is.
Lots of late goals, lots of brilliant goals as well. So,
no, it's very, very good. Just shame our team's not.
Competing. Yeah.
But we're used to it, aren't we? We've got it. We got it down. We know the score. We know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's fine. We will
it's like fate watching England. It's just like, you know, that Greek thing of Sisyphus rolling the rock up the hill.
Yeah.
We get halfway up, and it might as well say on that hill, quarter final.
Yes.
And that's the point at which the rock rolls back down.
Yeah. And then we start all over again.
Yeah.
So anyway, we don't have to worry about that until Tuesday. So what are you doing this weekend? Anything good? Anything interesting? Anything fun?
Well, what am I doing? I'm going to do a bit of climbing. I'm going to a barbecue, and I've obviously got my new house. So I'm going back and forth between my new house, doing things,
Good.
trying to keep tradesmen from messing stuff up.
Yeah, that's good. Good sport.
Which they seem very good at.
Yeah. Simple things just take on a world of their own.
Well intentioned, but disorganized, and But anyway, no, it's all good. Yeah. What about you?
Excellent. So it's my son's birthday on Sunday, so it's a weekend.
Ooh.
He's got a new bike, mountain bike. So
nice.
Spending a lot of time in the woods and trees, I suppose.
I'm trying to do a challenge, which we can probably do on the show, maybe feature, but I've got to do a bit more work on it. It's the pull-up challenge.
Wow.
Can you do a pull-up?
Not anymore. No.
Okay, so this is my challenge. I'm not able to do more than about 1 or 2 at the moment.
Yeah, that's where I am.
I'm going for. I'll show a YouTube video next week of people doing it properly, and in about 6 months, I might be able to do 3. I've got a program. That's what I'm saying. I've got an aim, and I'll have a video of me doing them. 3
pull-ups in 6 months.
No, I mean, I'm not saying. I'm saying it might fail. That would be failure. But I'm hoping to get to say 10. I don't want to do more than 10 because that's, I'm at the age where it doesn't really matter. But I think if I could do 10,
that'd be impressive.
It would be impressive, yeah.
We'll get a bar set up on, not a bar, I mean,
bar, that's right. Well, we'll get it. I could get it filmed, you know, and we could have it as the challenge.
I've got one in the garden for the kids' climbing frame.
Well, you see if you can do one over the weekend and then film it.
Okay. I don't know why, but I will.
Yeah, we could have little physical challenges on this show, couldn't we?
What's that thing where they put Japanese? Is it Takashi's Castle or something?
Yeah.
Where that endurance thing. They put.
Yeah.
Is it Japanese people in like cold water until they passed out?
Yeah. We don't want to do that, but
no,
not at our age. It'd be bloody dangerous, that is.
Yeah.
But
okay.
No, I mean, a little pull-up challenge, or we don't want to push ourselves to extreme limits. I think just achieving something to inspire others. I think.
Yeah. Well, why not?
You can do 10 press-ups and
put the comments in the chat on the replay, and we'll read.
What physical challenge should we do?
Yeah, Burgess Bolton physical challenge. I'll get my jingles back next week, and I'll make a new one.
Sounded wrong.
Yeah. Right. On that note, I'm going to go.
Have a lovely weekend. We've got an OBS one next week, haven't we? By the way. Sorry.
Yes, we have. Yeah. So
interesting one, yeah.
Yeah, we will. We'll get some highlights from TinTech, and I'm really looking forward to the event as well. So it should be good. Okay, good. Right, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next week. Have a good weekend.
Happy weekend. Bye.